Okay, folks, as it's the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi this year, we thought we'd line up a little Q&A with some of the Star Wars guests today. So, please join me in welcoming Hugh, Spight, Toby, Philpott, John Simpkin, and Willie Coppen onto the stage. Give a round of applause, everyone. I would have got you comfier seats, gents, but that sofa is really bloody heavy, so I do apologise. Okay, so we're going to put the questions to you guys on the floor in a moment, so have a think about what questions you want to make. In the meantime, Hugh, you were a Gamorrean god, have I got that right? And I read that they spelt your name wrong in the end credits of the film. How did that come about, do you know?
You know when the credits go up, sitting there watching the first preview, and then it said Hugh Spight, it was Hugh Spirit. So there's fame out of the window. Anyway, about 4 years later, I left the country and went to work in Hamburg for a musical for a couple of months, and I basically ended up staying 15 years in Hamburg. And I came back to Britain, and I knew nothing about Star Wars. I didn't know anything about comic cons. And I'd been back about 4 years, and I received a letter from someone who found out what my real name was, and he traced me through the electoral roll. And he said that, you know, people all over the world are looking for you. What are you talking about? Anyway, I met up with him, and he introduced me to this whole thing. I knew nothing. And that was the beginning, and that was about 7 years ago. So yeah, so my name kept me in total obscurity for all that time.
Yeah, my name keeps me in obscurity as well, unfortunately. Although I have just learned there's 2 Dan Maddoxes. I didn't know that, but thank you for that. Toby, thank you for joining us today. You were the puppeteer for Jabba the Hutt. One of, was it 3 or 4?
Well, that's a lot. I'll let you take that.
That's a long story. In a close-up, there are 2 of us inside. I'm doing the left hand, the head and the tongue, and Dave Barker's doing the right hand and the mouth, and all the dialogue in English. On a wide shot, we'd have a 3rd person in the back, one of the time bandits, who would wave the tail around. So that's 3 people inside. Outside, there would be a radio control guy, or 2, doing the eyes and details of the face, and sometimes somebody under the stage doing heavy breathing. So an absolute minimum is 3. And I think when he was dying, there were 7 people working. So it's a team puppet, you know, it's really quite complicated.
And I also read that you were a street entertainer before you got into this. So how did you go from street entertainer to puppeteer? Can you tell us a little bit about that one?
Yeah, it's a funny thing. All through the 70s, I made a living as a juggler and an acrobat and did magic and fire eating and all that sort of thing. That included studying mask work and mime and things. And my mime teacher said, there's an advertisement here for people to do big creatures for the film called The Dark Crystal, which was Jim Henson and the Muppets. And they wanted fit people to work in the really uncomfortable positions of puppets. So I didn't get the job from being in films or being an actor or anything. I literally was an acrobat. And they found me and put me on Dark Crystal. Well, while I was working on Dark Crystal, I learned puppets from Jim Henson and Frank Oz, and I worked on Jim's team, so I was right next to him every day. And by the end of 6 months, I felt I was a film puppeteer. The next film in the same studio was Return of the Jedi. So I didn't even audition for it. I was called in, and they said, we've seen you doing big creatures on the Dark Crystal. Would you like to do another big creature? And that was Jabba the Hutt.
And you never look back. Okay, we've also got John Simpkin. You were Klaatu in Return of the Jedi, one of Jabba the Hutt's right-hand men. So I'd imagine that you and Toby spent a lot of time on set together.
He spent time with Jabba. I was inside Jabba all day.
Yeah, we kind of did, but we didn't in a way, because obviously Toby spent most of his time deep in the entrails of Jabba the Hutt, and I was, positioned further away. I had a mask on that completely covered my face, eyes that you couldn't really see what you were doing through at all. So I think I was certainly aware of him, and I was aware of the jabber kind of doing unusual things and occasionally malfunctions happening, which were quite funny. But I've actually got to know him more through doing conventions since then. But it was a great time for me. I found the actual Jabba the Hutt a fascinating creature that looked surprisingly real when you saw it. And it was very exciting just being on that set for me.
Excellent, thank you for that. And we've also got Willie Coppen. He played an Ewok in Return of the Jedi, and you've been in Willow and some of the films as well. So, what's your experience of Return of the Jedi? How did you find being a member of that cast?
It's fantastic for me because at the time I was 19 years old. I wasn't even thinking of doing any films or anything, and working in a car spare shop in Derby. And one day I phoned, one of our customers phoned me up and said, "Willie, on the local radio, they've just made an appeal for people like you for the next Star Wars film." So I phoned the agent up. He said, "Yeah, you sound right, but I do need to see you because I've had people of 5'2" phoning saying I'm small." So I phoned my dad up and he was at work and said, "Dad, can I use Dad's taxi service tonight? I need to go over to Nottingham." And in those days, you couldn't phone your dad up and say, "Can you take me to 20 odd miles tonight in the car?" Like you can nowadays, when Dad's saying, "Of course, only 20 miles." So he said, "I'll take you to Nottingham. Why do you need to go?" I said, "Oh, I might be in the next Star Wars film." Yeah? So I went over to the studios, so I went over to Nottingham, saw the agent, and he said, "Yes, you're right, size and everything. I'll arrange for you to go down to Elstree." So a few days later, I was on the train going down to Elstree, and I wasn't the sort of person who said, "Daddy, come with me," but I didn't want to be on the train thinking, "I'm in the money," and get there and say, "Thank you," but no thank you. With my dad working for the railways, he got free passes, so he came down with me. I was in the wardrobe department, they were measuring me up, and with the way they were talking, I thought, I've got this part. But I thought I was going to have to do something. And so I said, "Have I actually got a part in this film?" He said, "Yeah, of course you have." "Oh, okay." So that was my introduction, and it was brilliant.
Excellent, thank you for that. Right, we're going to open the questions to the floor. There's a few of you listening at the moment. Has anybody got a question for any of the Return of the Jedi cast? Anybody want to pop up and pose a question? There must be one burning down there. No, we're all just happy listening? He's thinking, look, he's thinking.
Go on, anything.
Anything. Did you overall enjoy it? Was it a brilliant experience? I'm going to pose that to the whole cast just to finish up, because I don't think we're going to get many questions from you guys. I think you're happy listening, aren't you? So, overall, your experience of Star Wars and Return of the Jedi, and what it means to you guys 40 years on, for this year, for the anniversary especially.
For me, it's fantastic. I hadn't actually seen any of the Star Wars films up until the first day of filming. I was able to go see Empire Strikes Back in the film theatre at Elstree Studios. But working with the likes of Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill he'd walk by a room, see us lot in it, and come in and chat to us. I was up on set one day, behind camera, chatting to him about when his wife was giving birth when he was doing Empire Strikes Back. So it wasn't just let's talk about work, and it was talking about personal things. And one day when I was overheating because of the costume, people rushed to take my costume off me. When I sort of became conscious of what was happening, Harrison Ford was holding a fan to cool me down. So it's memories like that which will stay with me for the rest of my life.
Yeah, for me too, really. I remember walking on the Return of the Jedi set, and it was pretty staggering to see. It really felt special from the beginning. And yeah, I mean, I met people, I got to know people from that movie, and it's obviously slightly changed my life because when I first had a call, I think it was about 2009, to go and sign at a Star Wars convention, and I thought it was a joke, to be honest. I thought someone was like winding me up. I didn't know what a convention was. So it's been great. I've travelled. I've met nice people like this, and yeah, it's certainly been a positive thing in my life.
Yeah, it's a bit hard to talk about Return of the Jedi, really. I confess that the work I'm most proud of was on the Dark Crystal and on Labyrinth, just because of working with Jim Henson. And I contributed more to that. You know, like I worked on Dark Crystal for 6 months. Return of the Jedi for me is 5 weeks' work 40 years ago. So exciting though it is, it wasn't the biggest thing that I did. However, having said that, Jabba the Hutt is famous. We puppeteers aren't. I'm glad to say the creature, the character, he's now mythological. I mean, he's everyone, even people who haven't watched Star Wars, know who Jabba the Hutt is, and they compare, I don't know, Donald Trump to him, or you know, whatever. He's a model, you know. And the thing is, when I got that job, I thought I was just going to be another background creature, same as on Dark Crystal. I had no idea it was Jabba's palace. I didn't know we were going to do scenes with all the main characters. We do actually act with all the main characters in that scene. So, you know, yes, I'm very pleased and proud that people still remember our work all these years later.
Yeah, all these years later. First of all, I have to be frank, it was just another job. My background was dance. They were looking for dancers, actors, gymnasts, circus performers, so this is who we are. But I like to say, yeah, I was a dancer. As a dancer, you're as good as your last audition. There's no golden handshake. There's not even a pension. But I say this is payback time. Thank you very much.
Guys, thank you for joining us up on stage today and answering a few questions for us. Guys, please do give it up once again for Hugh Spight, not Spirit, Spight, Toby Philpott, John Simpkin and Willie Coppen. Give them a round of applause, everybody. Thank you very, very much.